Okay, so that's all the new changes. It's 2 changes, but it's really big. But tonight, another part of tonight was to focus on the end-of-course test. And if you have a student in 9th grade for the first time, then you probably are not familiar with the end-of-course test. And we refer to it as the EOCT. But all 9th grade students who are in Math 1 will take the EOCT at the end of the semester. The EOCT is state mandated, and it is required to count 15% of your students' overall grade for the spring semester. So when finals come up, there's no exempting, everybody is taking it, and it's 15% of your grade. So we kind of talked about this and just seeing how things went towards the end of the semester last semester, and we really are concerned about getting them prepared for this EOCT because it covers a lot of information. It covers a year's worth of information. And thankfully, our school has had study guides printed that you will get after this presentation, but a study guide that you will be able to go through and hopefully prepare for. And you may wonder what type of questions are on the EOCT. It's going to, of course, cover the curriculum that we're teaching in 9th grade, but the questions are going to be very similar in nature to what they saw on the CRCT last year on the math portion. So you guys know what the CRCT looked like better than I do because I didn't see it. But the questions on the EOCT are not going to be easy, I guess. But we're going to be prepared. And the EOCT is in May, so you may be thinking, why are we doing this now when the test is in May? But it does cover a year's worth of curriculum, and you cannot wait till the last minute to study for this. So we wanted to talk to you about how to prepare your student or your child for the EOCT. And one of the main things we can say, we are going to be using study guides in class. We expect our every student in the 9th grade will have one, and we expect them to bring it with them to class every day because we plan to make sure that they've seen everything in there in the classroom. But also, we talked about at least 3 weeks before the EOCT comes up in May, it would be really good, and even before that, to start looking through and just kind of going back to the beginning of the year and refreshing your memory on stuff that you've probably forgotten. I know many of you have probably already forgotten how to graph the absolute value function. You know, stuff like that you're going to have to look back over. And if your child loses their study guide, which we hope does not happen, you can access it online. And this is the link, and you can write it down if you want to. Usually if I'm looking for it, I just go to Google and search for Math 1 EOCT Study Guide. And it's really easy to find. And as we sat at the end of last semester and looked at the unfortunate number of students who did not pass, we talked about how important it was for us to talk to you about how to help your student succeed in math, because math is different than other subjects. You study different. It's just a lot different. So we also wanted to talk to you guys about how to set your students up for success, how to help them at home. And as we together as a team talk about this, the first thing that we all said was it would really help if they come to class prepared. And I know you probably hear that a lot, but you'd be surprised at how many people show up to my classroom every day with no pencil. So I have to wait, I have to take time, because I'm not going to let them sit there with nothing to write with and hand out pencils. And so something just as little as not having a pencil could keep your student from taking notes, because sometimes they'll sit there and not tell us they don't have a pencil for like 20 minutes, and then you're like, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And they're like, oh, I don't have a pencil. So something just as little as a pencil is really important. So I know you can't make sure your child has a pencil when you're at work and they're here, but please just help them make sure they have it when they leave in the morning, make sure that they are prepared for class. With paper too, because we also hand out a lot of paper. And calculators. I know at the beginning of the year at Open House we talked a lot about having a calculator and how important it was going to be. And I know on the CRCT last year you guys weren't able to use the calculator, but this year on the EOCT and on the graduation test coming up, you will be able to use your calculator. And you need your calculator. And you need your calculator every day in class. Some days we don't use our calculator. Lately we've been talking about logic and we've been doing all words. But then as some of you guys saw, we then started talking about polygons, and we were plugging in these huge numbers into a formula, and only half the class had their calculator, so the other ones were trying to do these huge numbers. So it's really important. You never know what we're going to be doing in class. You never know when you might need that calculator, and you're always free to use it. So if your child does not have a calculator, that's something that you might want to work on getting them one. Maybe they lost it and are scared to tell you, so maybe you want to check to make sure that they still have their calculator, that it works, and just encourage them to bring that to class every day. Especially we have a test coming up on Friday in the regular math class, and they need their calculator. So if anything, make sure your child has a calculator Friday for the test, because they're going to need it. And it's just really important that they have these things when they come to our class every day. It does make a big difference. Another thing, as we talked, we wanted to let you know that we do, all three of us have a makeup policy. If you have a homework grade of 0, you can always make it up. And we were really shocked at the end of last semester at how few people took advantage of that policy. We do let them make up for half credit, and they do have to serve a detention before or after school. But that 50 is huge. You may think a 50 is not going to help much, but if you have 6 zeros and you turn in 2 late assignments, your average can come up a whole point. That's usually about how it works, depending on how many zeros you have and how your average is. But it's very, very, very important. I maybe had like 6 students come in at the end of the semester. Normally, because I've always had this policy, I have like 10 kids every morning in the last 2 weeks before the semester's over, making up homework, and I did not see that this year. And I don't know if it was just because they don't understand yet how important it is to pass, or they don't understand how big a 0 is. I don't know. But you now, as parents, know that we have this policy. They can always make up a homework 0. So please encourage, if you know that they have a 0, if you have access to Power School, and you can check in there if they have a 0, please encourage them to come into detention. It's not mandatory. We don't go through and assign detention to everybody with 0s. They have to come to us and say, usually, I want to come to detention. They tell me when they want to come, and then I'm there. Same with the other teachers. So